All right, let's dive into an investment that's trying to solve one of the biggest challenges in education today, digitalization. We're talking about a company called Kipin, and they have a massive mission to connect every single student in Indonesia to the digital world. And trust me, that's a lot easier said than done.
I mean, just think about that number for a second. 300,000 schools. We're talking about a huge educational system spread across thousands and thousands of islands. So for any education tech company, this is the big question, right? How on earth do you build something that can actually reach everybody, not just the kids in the big cities? And here's where it gets really tricky. For a huge part of this market, the usual strategy, online apps, cloud-based learning, it just doesn't fly. The biggest roadblock isn't that people don't want the tech, it's that they literally can't get reliable, affordable internet. And that's where this whole story takes a very interesting turn. To really get why Kipin is such a big deal, you first have to understand the problem they're up against. And this isn't just a small gap in service. It's a massive digital divide that shapes pretty much everything about education in the country. Get a load of this number. Over 150,000 schools in Indonesia are in places with terrible internet or no internet at all. That's about half of the entire school system. So any solution that needs a constant internet connection is basically ignoring half the market right from the get-go. And this isn't just about technology. It's about people. We're talking about millions of students who are completely cut off from the digital resources that other kids take for granted. This digital divide becomes an education divide, and that's the exact problem Kipin was designed to fix. So what do? How do you solve a problem that big? Well, instead of trying to fight against the lack of internet, Kipin did something brilliant. They just bypassed it completely. Their whole approach is kind of radical, but it's perfectly built for the reality on the ground. Okay, so the core of their whole strategy is this little piece of tech called the EduSpot. Picture this. It's a small box that you put in a classroom, and it creates its own little local Wi-Fi bubble. But, and this is the genius part, it doesn't connect to the internet. It connects students' phones and tablets to a huge library of educational content that's stored right there inside the box. So here's the real difference. Your normal Wi-Fi has to pull everything from the internet, which costs money and needs good signal. Kipin's EduSpot serves up all that data from right there in the room. That means access is instant, it's super fast, and most importantly, it's totally free for the schools and students to use. No buffering, no data plans, no problem. This gives them two huge advantages. First, a school gets a massive digital library, like instantly. And second, it gets rid of the single biggest hurdle for schools going digital, those expensive recurring data costs. For a school budget, or for a student's family, that is an absolute game changer. And we're not talking about just a few PDFs here. The library is massive. It's got over 5,000 official textbooks, thousands of educational videos, more than 50,000 practice questions, and even hundreds of comics to help with literacy. All of that is preloaded and ready to go, turning any classroom, even one in the middle of nowhere, into a modern digital learning hub. Now, this clever tech isn't just a one-off product. It's actually the foundation for a really flexible and scalable business model. It's designed to work for the entire Indonesian market, from the most connected schools in Jakarta to the most remote village schools you can imagine. What Kipin has done, very smartly, is break the market down into different segments. Got internet? Great. There's an online version called Kipin School Pro. Are you a small, remote school? Here's a plug-and-play device called Kipin Classroom. A bigger school that needs more power? No problem. Here's the Kipin Max local server. They even have a version that loads their content onto government-provided smartboards. They really have an answer for every single scenario. And because they have all these different products, they have lots of ways to make money. They've got subscriptions for their online stuff, one-time sales for their offline hardware, and even licensing deals. This kind of financial flexibility means the business is tough and can adapt to pretty much anything. Okay, so the tech sounds amazing. The business model makes a ton of sense, but does it actually work? Is it making a difference in the real world? Let's look at the proof. This quote from a teacher, Haryanto Pakpahan, pretty much says it all. He says it's very supportive for remote areas that are far from a signal. I mean, that's not some corporate marketing line. That's a real person on the front lines of education, confirming that this thing works exactly where it's needed the most. And, this isn't just happening in one or two places. We're seeing these success stories pop up in some of Indonesia's most remote regions. We're talking places like the island of Nias, way off the coast of Sumatra, all the way to the highlands of Papua. Kipin is proving its model works in the toughest places you can imagine. All this real-world impact hasn't gone unnoticed. They've won national awards and gotten international recognition. People aren't just seeing them as another tech company, they're seeing them as a major player in the country's mission to make education fair for everyone. So, let's pull all of this together. From an investment point of view, what's the bottom line? When you boil it all down, the investment case for Kipin really stands on a few key pillars. It solves a huge, critical problem with technology that's already proven to work and scale. It has a clear path to dominating a massive underserved market. And it delivers real, measurable social impact, which means you're aligning a financial return with a seriously powerful mission. So when you think about it, an investment in Kipin isn't really a bet on an app or a gadget. It's an investment in essential infrastructure. In all those places where internet cables can't or won't go, Kipin is building the bridge to digital learning. It's becoming a fundamental part of a modern education in Indonesia. And that leaves us with one last really big question to think about. The problems Kipin is solving, bad connectivity, high costs, they aren't just in Indonesia. Millions of students face these exact same challenges all across Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So you have to wonder, could this offline first model be the blueprint for unlocking digital education for the entire developing world?